Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Hilaritas podcast, where we explore the vast world of iconic writer, psychedelic psychologist, rebel philosopher, and self-proclaimed agnostic mystic, Robert Anton Wilson. Right here, right now, it is my great pleasure to share with you my chat with artist, educator, and author over at Original Falcon, Denny Sargent. Denny Sargent, welcome to the Hilaritas podcast.
I am very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, excellent. So you have as many as 15 books you were saying, but the most recent one, Tantra for All is out with Original Falcon.
Original Falcon Press.
Yes.
And I've done another book with Original Falcon long ago. This one, which
Okay.
for some reason is now becoming popular again. I don't know why, but yeah, this took me almost 30 years to finally put together.
Nice.
It's a book because I've been a tantric since 1980 when I was initiated into the Nat Sampradaya, and then later on the Uttara Kaula Sampradaya. Sampradaya is lineage, right?
Right.
And the guru of the lineage, who's passed away quite a while ago, Shri Guru. I have his picture. Just a second. Shri Gurudev Dadaji Mahendranath. He gave me my knot name, which is Hermeticus knot, which is weird because it's Greek. But he wanted me to convey Tantra to the West, because Hermeticus is Greek. It means magician knot. And, and I'm into magic, and I'm into a lot of Western occult stuff. And so long ago, this is 1980s. He said, okay, he gave me my name, which was odd, Hermeticus. He said, I want you to, the lineage kind of split. There was other stuff going on, but he said, I want you to promote Tantra in the West for Westerners, because it's so India oriented, and Americans aren't that way. So for, off and on for 30 years, I've been trying, I've been writing it and then going, no, it just is more this or that, or it started to seem very pedantic. And then I would get rid of it. I had like 5 tries at it. And I finally had a moment where I thought, well, okay, I've been a university teacher for a long, long time. I'm retired now. But I've been a teacher my whole life. That's what I do and what I did for a long time. And I was like, well, all right, how do I convey to Americans who really are not in the mindset of people from India, right? Like, how do I convey to them what Tantra is about, which is actually pretty open to anybody, doesn't matter what country you're from or anything. And I thought, oh, you know what? And then I started writing this one. I said, all right, I'm going to write it like a textbook. Like, all right, here's what everything is, A, B, C. And if you follow the book, this is exactly how to do it, how to do Tantra. And so I've got, okay, this is how you this is meditation. This is breathing exercises. And then here's the rituals. And then it ends with pujas, with a bunch of books, a bunch of full-on rituals. In other words, I say, okay, learn about this. Now put it all together, and now you can do a tantric puja like anybody. So it's a very different take on Tantra, but I'm getting a lot of really positive feedback about it, because everybody else who buys these, like, I have a whole slew of Tantra books, but they're all like about Indian and you got to know Sanskrit and all this other stuff. and this is like just like you can be American. There's some Sanskrit words in there like Shiva and Kali and Lakshmi and all the Hanuman, all these, but I've done it in a way that anyone can pick it up and read it and do it. So I have a bunch of my friends who are working their way through it who we're looking at it going, oh, Tantra, it's too complicated. But now they're reading it, they're going, oh, this is really easy, like this is really straightforward, Yeah, I had to read. I'm totally blessed to have the guy who guided me, Nick Tharter.
Yeah.
He's really amazing, but he was tough. I have never worked so hard in my life.
Really?
Reading this book. Oh yeah, no, it took. I don't even know how long it took me, but it took me a long time because he doesn't know about Tantra. And so he did an excellent job of like making me rewrite everything so that it was understandable to Americans.
Wow.
So I rewrote much of the book 11 times. we went back and forth, and he'd say, no, this is a little bit too much, and I don't, you can clarify this, and can you simplify this? And so I'm really proud of this book. It took me, like I said, 30 years to finally do what I told my guru Dadaji Mahendranath I was going to do. He passed away, of course, in the meantime, but anyway. So that's the book. It's a book that anyone can pick up and start reading it. He made me write it so clearly that anybody can pick it up and read it and go, on meditating, on this is what this is, and and then I introduce a lot of I introduce things, but like little bites. It's like I don't know. I guess it's like a podcast. It's kind of like okay, today we're going to talk about breathing.
Okay, yeah.
This. So, in a nutshell, that's pretty much the book.
I like how you say like textbook form or in Western occult Golden Dawn practice. I think there's a guy Donald Michael Craig that wrote
yeah.
Familiar.
He was in Donald. Shambhala was his tantric name. He was a friend of mine.
Okay, great.
And he had the same initiations that I did, and we would occasionally, like at Pantheacon, we'd run into each other, or other places. We were friends. It's sad he died young. Cancer, I think, and it was very sad. He was a very 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 fun, very brilliant guy, and. So actually he and I talked about like how do you he was presenting on Tantra at Pantheacon. We talked about how how do you break into Americans what Tantra is. It's not that complicated, but it looks complicated because it's got all these Sanskrit terms and tantrics are not Hindus, right?
Right.
Like we're not. We're Hinduism is a religion, and it's very classified, and it's very organized, and you have different castes. You have the Brahmins at the top who do all this, and then you have at the very bottom you have the untouchables and all that. And Tantra is a completely different thing. Tantra, there's no hierarchy. There's none of that stuff. Like people do, we have a term. It's called we say svechacharya. Svechacharya means do your will. Like just do your will. Like you don't have to follow a particular, like a Gita, or you don't have to follow a particular holy text like the Vedas. In fact, Dadaji said we are not Vedic. We're Avedic. We don't follow all the traditional Aryan stuff. So once you're initiated as a tantric, you're good. You're it. Like there's no more levels.
Oh, I see what
it's not like first degree, second degree. It's it's not like the Golden Dawn. Like you're initiated. That's it. You're not or whatever, and you can do whatever you want to do. So it's a different ballgame. When I traveled in India, people, I would always bring a picture of Dadaji, and I would wear my, my 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 beads. I would wear my mala, which is when I do my meditation. When I do my puja every night. In fact, I'll show you something before I finish talking. Since I happen to be in the same room, so this is where I meditate. This is
Nice.
my altar. Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah, it's coming in pretty good.
All right. So yeah, I have. So this is my where I do everything. This is I have a Shiva ling right here, which is the Shiva and Shakti. Very very simple. Male and female, and then I have a lot of things going on. I have my Ganesh candles burning right now, and you can see the whole thing, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So yeah, that's my tantric temple.
Nice.
That's where I do my thing. Every night I do it. Every night I meditate. Every night I wear my Rudraksha beads. Every night I chant.
Okay.
It's good therapy.
Do you have a morning practice as well, or is it mostly just an evening thing?
I'm pretty lazy. I mean, I'm pretty lazy, so no, just once a day. And
Yeah.
even then I have to I have to be like, oh, I want to watch TV. Oh, I should do my puja. I should do my meditation. So I'm pretty good at doing it every night, but
Nice.
yeah, twice a day is a little more for me. Too
Well,
much.
most people I know do a morning practice, and then if you can get an evening practice, that's like the bonus round. But it
Oh
sounds like
yeah.
you're more the evening guy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I've been an occultist most of my life, and
There.
you know, my magical group was in New York during the 70s and 80s, and I was a punk rocker and Kenneth Grant's OTO, and I was a witch. I'm a third degree Welsh trad witch, and I was involved in everything. And nighttime was when things happened in my
That's when.
New Yorker.
That's when things get
like,
weird.
yeah, we're not going to get up early and do stuff like but no, that's not how that works. But
Nice.
so I do get my stuff done at night, and I'm in fact, waking up for your podcast was a little bit.
Oh,
I was up late last night. So yeah, I'm a night.
yeah.
I can't help it. I'm a New Yorker. I'm a night person. I was
That's
most of my life. I was a teacher. I mean, I had to get up early, so I'm
hey, you're
done.
retired. So
I'm
had I
done.
known, we could have pushed this back a couple more hours. But
No. It's
here we
good.
are.
You made me get up and function. It's
There.
good.
well, let me ask you: when you talk about tantra, or is it tantra or tantra?
Either one. I mean,
Okay,
I
tantra.
say tantra, but I'm American, so
Yeah,
I'm sure British people say tantra. I don't.
tantra sounds cool to me right now, so I'm going to
Yeah,
roll with that.
sure.
So I had 30 years ago, I took a comparative religion class, and this teacher framed it that there's always like the religious teachings, the exoteric teachings for the public, and that every religion has like a esoteric spiritual practice side to it. So you have Islam, and I think as I was thinking about this for this interview, I was like, maybe this is a gross oversimplification, but you have Islam's have the Sufis, the Jewish traditions have Kabbalah, Christianity has a contemplative practice. Maybe you could say that some of the occult stuff falls in with that as well. But would you say that Tantra is the esoteric practice of the Hindu religion? Is that
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Um, this is how when I do presentations on this, and I start by saying like, okay, and I think I've already said it, but I'll just be clear again because people get really mixed up. I said, look, Hinduism is a religion like Christianity. I mean, it has a very clear hierarchy, has a very clear, methodology to it. But in Hinduism, in general, when you go to a temple, when you want to like work with a deity, right? So whether, just like in other religions, if you're a Catholic, you have to go to the church, and the priest does everything, and your job is to sit there, right?
Right.
And then you go up and take mass or whatever, and it's the same. I've been to Hebrew services where it's the same thing. Your job is to sit, and there's somebody up there doing it, and then you get that, right. It's the same. It's absolutely the same in Hinduism, where you go. Like, I traveled around India, and I had a great time, and I was accepted and treated very well. Once they saw I had rudrakshas, and then once they saw a picture of my guru, and I was able to, and I would say, they'd say, "Oh, you know about Hinduism," and I'd say, "Om Namah Shivaya, Eshavajaya Shivaya Namah," da, 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 da. I would like, and they'd be like, "Oh, you know what you're doing," and so that was really fun,
Nice.
And but in Hinduism, you're here, and the guru or the priest is here, and if to directly connect with the deity, say when I was in a Ganesh temple, I would go there during the service for Ganesh. My job was to sit there, and then he did all this, and then he would tell us, to say some things, and we'd say some things, and the priest is a Brahmin up there, and then he calls in the deity, and then the deity goes through him, just like Catholic Mass, and
Mhm.
then our job is just to sit there and kind of soak it up, and then at the very end there's prasad. Prasad is, they just, it's very similar.
Right.
Instead of a cake of light like in Catholicism, that they have food that is blessed by Ganesh, and then Ganesh comes and imbues it, and then we walk up one at a time, and we get this food, and then we have Ganesh. So basically, you have to go through the priest,
Right.
right?
There's like a third party in the way.
Always.
Right.
So Tantra, there is no middle. There is, I when I work with Ganesh, it's me and Ganesh. That's it.
Mm.
I don't have to go through a priest. I don't have to follow a particular code book. I don't, like, there's a million, there's Upanishads. There's so many different texts in Hinduism that, and they have, I mean, I can show you books that I have that are just like this thick. Like, I have one on Shiva that's like this thick, and it's like 5,000 different, mantras and this and all that, and it's all very interesting, and I like it. But the caveat is that for me to connect with Shiva as a Hindu, I have to go through the priest. That's
Mm.
a Brahmin, and the Brahmin's
Right.
top, right? So, but tantrics don't have. I mean, once we've had direct communion with the deities, we can work directly with the deities. I don't. One time, my friends and I, who were all initiated, uh, um, we were all initiated tantrics in the Adinath Sampradaya, Adinath lineage. We went to this big, beautiful temple in New York City. It's one of the most beautiful Hindu temples I've ever seen. And we walked in, and they had little rooms. It was beautiful. It's all carved, and it's stone and whatnot. And we walked by, and we went to the little temple section, little temple room that was the Shiva. And we all stepped in, and we sat down, and we started doing it. And the priest came running and said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And we looked at him. We said, "We're doing puja to Shiva." And he was like, he didn't know what to do, because
That's not how it goes.
that's not how it goes. And we just all looked at him. We said, don't worry. We're tantrics. We're tantrikas. We know what we're doing. And he just kind of like backed away and left us to do our puja. And it was that. I mean, I'm at the time, and then afterwards, I was kind of like, oh, maybe that was rude. I don't know, but that's how we roll. That's how tantrics roll. So when I was in India, I would to get into temples, they would say, you know, no foreigners. And I would have, again, I would have a picture of Dadaji, and I would have my Rudrakshas, and I would say, look, I'm not a tourist. I'm here to worship. You know, I'm here to pray. I'm here to connect. And after I said a few things, they'd be, oh, and they'd say, oh, what, you know, how did you learn this, you know? And I said, well, I'm an initiate of the Adinath Sampradaya. They'd go, oh, because tantrics, I found out in India, are generally not looked upon kindly, because we're like the crazy rogues.
Is that like saying you're a student of Aleister Crowley in the West?
Yeah, a lot like that. Yeah, exactly. And like, I'm Golden Dawn. I'm a devotee of Crowley. It was something very much like that. It was, and they weren't upset with me. They just kind of went,
They give you your space. Like,
please come into the temple. You know, like, don't curse me. I got the feeling they were like, oh. And so it was very fun. The fun, I have to say this because I know I don't want to. I'm not trying to say anything bad about India. I loved India. I had the absolute best time of my life. Once the people found out, once the drivers, not the Brahmins, but once the workers who were driving us around, once they found out that I was a tantric, that I was initiated tantric, they were like, oh, fantastic. We're gonna change the itinerary. You don't want to go to this and this and this. You want to go see like the oldest Shiva temple in the world and go to a puja? I'm like, yes. And
nice.
One of our drivers just kept saying, don't tell them that I took you here. And took us up to the mountains with this crevice where there were all these different. I had so many different experiences. I can go on about it, but the magic was astounding. But once they like the people who were kind of lower caste were like, oh yeah, awesome, you know. And then the people who were like running the show were kind of like, you know, yeah, it's like Crowley.
You're a rule breaker.
You're an occultist. But the funniest thing though was I love when I travel. I haven't been abroad for a little while, but I used to travel a lot. In India, I'd be worn out at the end of the night, and my ex and I would sit around, just tired, exhausted, and we'd watch TV. And watching TV in India is freaking hilarious. It's really fantastic. But what I found out was we watched these drama shows, and the bad guys are tantrics. And so I'll never forget watching one show where, you know, I couldn't understand it because it's all in Hindi, but you know, the bad guy showed up. He was dressed in black. He had big marks on his forehead, and he was a devotee of Kali. And they were like, "Oh, it's a tantric," you know. And
wow,
I was having the best time. And he'd kidnap children and sacrifice them to Kali and stuff like that. And it was like, wow, we have a bad rep, you know. So that explains what I said to people. Oh, they'd say, oh, you're a Christian devotee, or oh, you're this, and say, no, I'm a tantric. I'm initiated the Adinath Sampradaya. They'd be like, oh. Then after I saw it on TV, I was like, I get it. I'm the bad
guy. Right. The rebel.
Yeah.
Something like. What would you say the purpose of Tantra is?
To achieve enlightenment, to achieve illumination, but also to straighten sort of. I mean, that it's not so different from Hinduism in that, you know, I believe in karma. I believe in reincarnation. I mean, I'm an American, so, you know, I'm not like a hardcore believer. I don't know what happens when we die, but I tend to believe in those things. But I do believe in karma, and I believe in trying to do things right. And I've been involved in lots of different paganism, witchcraft, and all that, and so I believe in many different deities. I'm fine with that. And there's something very Tantra's extremely old. Like it's
Mm.
one of, if not the oldest, continuous religious, like I would say pagan. I don't think they would probably like the word pagan, but there's many gods and goddesses, etc., etc. So I find it very powerful. And when people like when witches I know and or Golden Dawn people or other people I know who are involved in many different things, sort of esoteric things, ask me like, well, why you're not a Hindu, blah blah blah. Why do you? And I said, well, here's the thing. When I pray to Shiva, right, or when I work with Lakshmi or I work with Kali or whatever, I know for a fact that there are over 1 billion people who are doing the same thing.
Mm.
So whether you think about deity or not, I think about power and the power of people's devotion. So when I'm chanting to Shiva, I know that there are like 1 billion people who are all doing the same thing. That's a tremendous amount of energy.
Mm.
There are certain Hindu holidays where everybody, like Diwali, which is, and there's different festivals, right? And I got to go to some that were just amazing in India. Um, and so when I enter that space, I know that I'm plugging in to millions of people doing the exact same thing, and the energy is really powerful. So, whereas I'm a big devotee of the god Pan, and I wrote a book on the god Pan. I don't know if you saw that or not. It's I have another name that I go by.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Ion Ion 131 is my magical name. So this book, this is one of my favorite books.
I
This took,
saw that.
yeah, yeah. So I'm a huge devotee of Pan, right? This is an amazing book actually. Unfortunately, it's a little pricey. It's hardcover, but I also know that when I do devotion to Pan, it's me and maybe 20 people.
That was what I was wondering. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Right.
maybe on a good day, but there isn't a big Pan festival in the United States, right? But you know, so there's something about the deities that I work with, and I also like the fact that a lot of Western occultism is sort of slapdash in the sense that, whereas I like the fact that Hinduism has really, really, it's very ancient. It's probably the most ancient, continuous religion that I can think of, or not religion, but spiritual practice. I mean, it goes all the way back. Like, okay, so this is an image of the oldest image in the world of a deity that I know, I shouldn't say that. It's from India. This
Right.
is from Mohenjo-daro, and I'm trying to remember how long ago Mohenjo-daro was. It was I can't remember. I shouldn't talk and say, but it's thousands of years old. Mohenjo-daro was prehistoric. Mohenjo-daro, and then the Harappan culture was the origin of all these things. And this is the oldest deity form that I know of, and that's a very primal. Like, we don't even know what that language is,
Right.
Mohenjo-daro, but that's Shiva, and that's the earliest Shiva, and I got to see the actual image of this. It's just a tiny little stamp. So this is one of, if not one of, it's one of the oldest continuous traditions in the world.
Right.
So, and so when I keep him here because I'm of the primordial you know, that's what I'm interested in, is like the oldest, most primordial. So that's what Tantra comes from: the Harappan culture, the Mohenjo-daro culture. That long before Hinduism. Hinduism is a mix of the Aryan. Some people say the Aryan invasion, or however you want to call it. They came down from Indo-European areas
Mm.
into India, but the original people who lived there were the Harappan and the Mohenjo-daro people, who were smaller, darker skinned, and there's still, like in southern India, there's still a lot of people who are in the same. So I'm being very, I'm covering something very complicated very simply.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people would be like, a little ticked off, but that's the way it is. So Tantra is about magic.
Mm.
Hinduism is about religion.
Right.
That's the basic breakdown in the two things. So as a tantric, I'm free to do whatever I want to do. I have initiated a number of people. I have somebody coming in next month, actually flying in he wants initiation. I don't ever charge or anything like that. There's a lot of people who do. If somebody's interested, I have conversations, and that they're like, some people initiate over Zoom. I do not. I don't mean to laugh, because I'm sure that that's a perfectly good way to transfer. But there's a thing called Shaktipat. Have you ever heard that term?
I've heard that. I'm not.
Shaktipat is directly passing on energy and power to someone else. So
Okay.
as a tantric, when I initiate someone, I want to like be there physically.
Right.
I want it to happen, and as opposed to Zoom or TikTok or
Well,
whatever.
could could you go through some of the steps of an initiation process?
um, sure. I mean, I can give you just a general thing. One, I want people to, like, I have a bunch of Dadaji's materials, his books,
Right.
well, his information. So the first thing I do is when people say, "Oh, I want to be a tantric," I go, "Okay, well, if you're interested, let me know, and I'll send you a PDF of a bunch of Dadaji's stuff. And if you read it, like actually read the whole thing, it's not that much.
Right.
Um, then we'll talk. Well, 99% of the people
That's
never
as
read
far
it.
as goes. Right.
Yeah, well, Americans don't read, so not all, but I've had so many people go, "Oh, I really, really want to be a tantric," and I'm like, "Okay, we've had this conversation a couple of times. Here, you read this. When you're done reading it, talk to me." And then 99%,
Right.
and I used to lend people the book, and after 3 months, I'd say, "I want my book back." "Oh, no, 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 I'm going to read it." You're out. Sorry. That's it. but when I get someone who's like, at this point, people write me, and I get devotees who are like, "I've read this, I've read Dadaji stuff. I know what you're doing." At this point, what's very helpful is a lot of people actually are
Mm.
getting this and reading the book, and then they contact me. And I think it tells you how to contact me here, but
Yeah.
they contact me and they're like, "I'm reading this book and I want to know if I can get initiated." I go, "Oh, you're reading the book? Oh, that put you right at the top, dude.
Cleared the first hurdle.
You actually read the book?" That's like, wow, somebody who read a book, and they're American. Wow. I'm sure a lot of people like get the book and they go, "Okay, I'm going to look on YouTube and see if I can just watch the
Right. Is there podcasts for this?
video." So yeah, at this point, very few people actually, contact me, but the ones that do, I've had people fly here because I say, well, if you wanted, you have to come here. And they fly here and they get a place to stay, and then they come over and we hang out for a couple of days, and then I initiate them. And so I got someone else is coming next month in July, early July, to be initiated. And I don't make a big deal about it. I'm not interested. I don't go around proselytizing, standing on the street corner saying, who wants to be a Tantra? It's a kind of a hidden thing. It's really more like Tantra's more like the occult side of the whole. It's not the religion of Hinduism. It's more the esoteric.
Right. So, and to back up a few steps, it's this non-hierarchical, you're getting a direct transmission or you're working directly with the deities, but what's the role of the guru in all this?
Well, that's a very good question, because what does the word guru mean? Do you know what it means?
I could spitball it, something about a teacher or
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the old school Hindu way of looking at things. The guru is some guy who's who's higher up on the hierarchy.
Right.
Maybe like a Monsignor in Hinduism, or like a cardinal, or and then something like that, right? But the word guru just means technically, well, you can see it, but guru means light from darkness is the standard, but it's a little more complicated than that. But the actual, in fact, I'm starting to write another book. I'm in the middle of writing a book on animism now, but after that, I'm going to be writing a book for Falcon. I'm hoping for the original Falcon Press on the guru, on the term of the guru. So this is a book called Guru Gita, which is a short but very intense little book that was embedded in one of the Vedas, one of these massive, things. It's like in the middle of it is this little thing. This is actually super important and powerful, because traditionally people think of the guru as the mentor, the teacher,
right,
the priest, who we sit at that person's feet, and they give us and they tell us what to do and guide us, like do this practice, do that, right? But actually, there's an important thing in both Hinduism and Tantra, which is the Atman. You know what I mean by Atman?
The word rings a bell, but I couldn't.
It's your soul, your spirit.
Okay, gotcha.
It's your it's when we have a soul in the Christian world. When you die, your soul leaves your body, and and
your essence, in a way.
Your essence, yeah. So the Atman is that, right? Well, the guru is seen in Hinduism as generally the teacher, right? But the real teacher is your Atman. So the Guru Gita, anyway, this is the book I'm going to be putting together. The bottom line is that guru, light from darkness, the guru is your Atman, it's yourself. And the teacher can reflect that. The teacher can be an icon of that. The guru can be a person who is very, very high and can help lead you to those things. But the essence is that the guru is here.
Right.
And when I do my puja every night, when I do my meditation every night, that's what I'm connecting with. I'm connecting with my inner self. What we call in Western occultism the holy guardian angel, whatever you want to call it, So I go through this whole thing of meditating and chanting, and then there's a point where I sit and I have a direct communion with my Atman. So it's a different thing, in Tantra, like you're the guru, like
right.
the guru is right here. I don't have a guru person. Dadaji was my,
Right.
but he's passed on, and so
Well, so what was his role in your life? Is that just like somebody that's climbed the mountain a little ahead of you and is sort of an
yeah, yeah,
inspiration on how to
yeah,
be?
yeah. And plus, he was originally British, so he kind of spanned the bridge from Sanskrit and all that stuff to the Western world. That was his goal, was to do that. And he tried he got it moving in several different things. In England there was a group called the Mukas, and they from Dadaji was helping with that. And so but it's like he was trying to move from this sort of very esoteric view of things in terms of tantra. And the tantra means book, by the way. It means book, it means
Mm,
star, it means a few things. But there are the oldest magical texts are tantras, and a lot of them are still being translated because a lot of people haven't translated them. So the tantras are magical, like magical grimoires almost.
gotcha.
And they're almost always, like in Tantra, it's almost always Shiva and Shakti, the god and goddess, talking to each other. So in these books, sometimes it's Shiva talking to Shakti, to the goddess, and saying, oh goddess, let me tell you all about this esoteric magical reality. And then sometimes it's her saying, let me tell you about
Huh.
this. So that was the earliest deities were Shiva and the god and goddess, and pretty much the Shiva ling that you always see. This is one of the few things that we see in Mohenjo-daro, and we see in some of the really older. It's pretty primordial thing. I mean, it's not so complicated. In India, there were people who were saying, "Oh yes, that's the egg," and I was like, "Okay, that's the egg. That's no, it's not. It's not the egg." but it can, some people see it as the egg. And that's all right. That's fine. So that in the end, it's the idea is just very simple. And Dadaji and I always tell people, and it's in here too. Like, here are some esoteric practices that have been around for a long, long time. Here's pranayama, breathing exercise. Here's
Mm,
this. Here's this. Here's how you put it all together. And this is gives you a place. You have to have you want a place to sit and do practice every day. And the idea is to open up and connect with your Atman, your higher self, your guru,
mm.
and achieve enlightenment, and for everybody that's going to be different. So I just try to, I go through rough times, and I sitting and doing my meditation and my pujas is a way to sort of push the chaos of the Western world away, and open directly to my higher being, and directly to the gods and goddesses. But in essence, there's God and goddess, which are really one thing. It's a much more simplistic, primal way of doing things. But there's a bunch of deities that I like. I'm a big Hanuman fan.
Well,
So I wasn't planning to be a Hanuman fan. When I went to India, Hanuman literally jumped on me. I mean, I was not, it wasn't a deity, the monkey guy. I
it
was,
found you, huh?
yeah, yeah, like seriously. Like, do you want to hear
Yeah,
the,
let's go into that. So,
all right. So I went there, mostly when I went to India and traveled around and went to all these, by telling people what I was into and what my practices were, they the guides in the cars would say, "Oh, you're not a tourist, you're a pilgrim." I said, "Yes, that's right." And they go, "Okay,
mm,
we're going to scrap everything we were going to do, and I'm going to take you to these places that you can't tell anybody I took you to." So I went to like the Shiva temple that was thousands of years old, and there was a huge festival puja there. and I was the only white guy there, and it was fantastic, and it was wonderful and powerful and intense, and I went through it and waded through the water, and there was millions of people, and everybody treated me really well, and it was just a lovely experience. So that was kind of what I was planning to do, was go to Shiva, was go to really focus mostly on connecting with Shiva, but I wasn't expecting Hanuman. So, and I had a sort of a revelation during this massive puja with like 100,000. It's like 1,000 people, and you touch the Shiva Ling, and the Shiva Ling has been there for thousands of years, and all this stuff. And I had this great moment when I came out. I was just like glowing. I was just so full of like an amazing spiritual experience. And I realized I was in India. You're vegetarian pretty much. I mean, everywhere you go, and the food was fantastic, and it didn't bother me. But that's when I gave up. That's when I gave up eating a lot of meat. Was I came out of the temple, and Shiva, literally, I got this incredible, like the heart of this incredible moment of Shiva saying, "Look, you're my devotee. I'm here. This you're in this world, but you can't eat beef anymore because his Varana, every deity has a Varana. A Varana is an animal form that goes with it, and Shiva's Varana is Nandi the bull, and he basically said, look, I'm not telling you I'm not telling you what to do, but if you want to like work with me, you can't eat beef anymore. So I gave up beef, and then I said, well, I might as well give up pork, and I might as well give up goat. And so I eat chicken. I still eat chicken and turkey and salmon, and that's about it. So that was like an example of going into, working directly with deity, very clear messages. So I'm trying to remember where I was going with all this.
We're Hanuman.
So Hanuman, I know who Hanuman is, but I've never worked with him. Well, the first night in India, I hear this call to prayer or something, this huge thing, and I look out the window of the hotel, and there is the largest Hanuman I've ever seen in my life on top of a Hanuman temple. I mean, it was like 3 stories high, this big monkey god, and I'm like, all right. So I was there for almost a month, going around different parts of India, and everywhere I went, Hanuman was there. I would sit in a restaurant, and there'd be a Hanuman there. There'd be like a Hanuman statue there, and then here, I'd do this, and there'd be a Hanuman there, and the monkeys jumped on me everywhere, and so it just was really crazy.
It was calling to you.
It was not even, it was ridiculous. I was at an airport going from Mumbai to some places, and I'd sit down, I'd be tired, and I'd look behind me, and there was a huge flag that was 3 stories high of Hanuman. And I was like, oh my goodness, this monkey god is all over me. And it was just really, really wild. And then one of our guides was like, he's like, oh, you're a pilgrim. I said, yes, we're doing this again. That's right. And he's like, okay, I'm going to take you to a place you cannot tell my boss that I took you here. Tourists are not supposed to be taken to this place because it's really all right. So we went way up into the fucking mountains. I'm like, oh, this guy could like kill me. I mean, I have no idea where I am or where I'm going to go. And we went to this place, and he pulls up. It's gorgeous. This is a ravine with like 1,000 temples, and there's not a single tourist there. So, and he pulls up, and then I start to get out, and there's a guy standing in front of our car. He's just been standing there, right?
Right.
And I like your background.
Yeah, I'm changing the background on you.
Hey, Nagaji, that's there's a Naga right there. That might be Sesha, or it's Vasuki. That's Vasuki Naga. So anyway, so there's this guy dressed in traditional, orangey robes, and he's clearly a guru, and so we get out of the car, and he looks at me and he goes, "You come with me," and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is a movie."
Right.
So like, all right, where is this going? So and I looked at the guide, and the guide goes, you have to go, and I'm like, yeah, apparently I do. So I went with him, and I followed him, and he went down into a cave, and he had his own cave. It's like about the size of this room. And he is like, okay, come in here, sit down. And I'm like, okay, this is where I die. I mean,
Right. This is either really good or really bad.
Nobody knows where I am. I mean, So I sit down, and he's got a Hanuman altar there, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And he just, without saying anything, he says a few things. I think he gave me some tea, and then he's like, okay, so I'm going to bless you and empower you for Hanuman. And he didn't ask me, do you want? He's just like, this is why you're here. This is what he said. I was waiting for you. And I'm like, waiting for me? He's like, yes, I knew you were coming. I was waiting for you. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go with this. And he did this incredible puja to Hanuman, and very, very powerful. Like my whole body was going,
Wow.
and then and he blessed me, and he gave me a mantra, and a copy of the Hanuman Chalasa, which is a chanting, a book that's more that you use for ritual work. And I was like, wow. And I said, I mean, at the end, I was like, wow, I got a full on, anointment,
Yeah.
And I said, well, can I give you some money? Which is in India, when you travel around India, people are asking,
Right.
Holy men come up with their whole thing, and if you take a photo, they want money.
Right.
It makes sense, actually. And I said, can I give you some money? And he said, no, which shocked me. He's like, no, I don't want any money. I'm like, damn, you don't want any money? Like, you're the first person I met who doesn't want any money. And I said, oh. He goes, no, you were supposed to get this. You were supposed to have this. Hanuman wanted, you're one of Hanuman's. And I was like, oh, okay. This is how it works. All right. Wow. So, and from then on, throughout India, everywhere I went, I'd sit in a restaurant, there'd be a Hanuman. So Hanuman became one of my fun gods.
And what's the essence of Hanuman?
Well, he's here. I'll show you. So that's Hanuman.
Right.
If you just do a quick search for Hanuman, you'll find a ton of stuff. He's super popular. So he's a god. He was born from the god of the wind. He's like a superhero. He's like a big buff guy who kicks ass and does all these things. What's really fun is go on YouTube and just type in Hanuman and look at some of the animation, some of the Hanuman animation that tells you the stories and all that. But he's the god of I mean, he's kind of like the warrior god, but
Gotcha.
but he's I don't know how to explain Hanuman. He's a very sweet god, but he's very protective and very he saves people's lives, and but he's also like a weightlifter.
He's ripped in the photos I'm seeing. He's
very ripped. He's very ripped, and he's very sweet. And when I used to have a group that met, and unfortunately, in the divorce, I lost my house, and my temple, and the group I had. But we used to do a Hanuman puja, and Hanuman brings you strength, and like intensity. Yeah, that's a good thing. The AI images are like out of control. They're hilarious. That was a really good one. I have some really good ones too. Yeah, he's the war. He's like the warrior, but he's also like really sweet and really nice. He has friends, like super friends, that hang out with him, and there's all these stories about him. And like if you read the if you want to know the story, you can hear or you can read in English the Hanuman Chailasa, the whole story about Hanuman. And uh,
No.
anyway, but he's like a badass, but he's also like really funny and really
Mm.
really sweet and very kind and nice. He's a very interesting. It's a very interesting deity form. Whenever we used to do a Hanuman puja, it always devolved into hilarity. I mean, we
Nice.
I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, it's about strength and power and all those sorts of things. But also, he's very playful and very funny, and as a deity, he brings you all kinds of positive, like getting in shape and being and helping others. Like he was very big on saving people and
Mm.
helping people. Um, you've heard about Rama. Well, Hanuman and Rama were like best buds. And
Hmm.
anyway, so I mean, there's all these stories and stuff, but working directly with Hanuman has been hilarious. I mean,
Okay. Is it
we
like monkey mischief kind of thing, or?
yes, it is very much like that. I wrote. I finally, like, one time I did Hanuman puja, and I wrote this whole little song that I inserted in the puja. And it's like, we invoke the monkey god. We invoke the it's very like, you know I included like I included like King Kong. I included all these things in the song because he's like, you're this, and, swing from the tree and da 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 and all this. Anyway, Hanuman clearly was simpatico with me, and so, but
Okay.
when I came back from India, Hanuman came along with me. So
And is that, to the extent that you're into animism, is that perhaps where it started, or maybe not where it started, but certainly?
it definitely connects. I mean,
Yeah.
so in the book I'm writing now, which is called Feral Magic, um, and it's about when I'm calling neo-animism, because all right, so all these deities, like Hanuman's a really good example. All of these deities, especially the older deities, like the tantric deities, they almost always go all the way back to an animal form, right?
Right.
And so in many different occult or magical practices, we're talking about tantra today. Each god, most of them are now human form, right? Ganesh is a really good example of a deity
Right.
that is still has animal form, right? So the oldest, we know in Egypt, we know in lots of places that the earliest temples, the earliest shrines had animals as animal forms as being worshipped. I mean,
Mm.
the earliest Egyptian temples, for example, for Horus, were are there's some prehistoric, very very rough images of these shrines, and the only thing in the shrine is a crossbar and a stick with a hawk, a living hawk was on it, and that was what was venerated. So it's very animism is the root of all religion.
Mm.
Some people are saying it's 400,000 years old, or even older. We know for a fact, like if you like, I'm reading several books now. If you start researching animism, you'll see it very clearly stated. Animism is the origin of all religious thought, because it was people. This is even before we were like Homo sapiens, when we were different kinds of hominids, right?
Right.
Magnet and whatever. That we saw the world as full of living beings, and by working with those living beings, we could be part of nature, and we could things were interconnected. So this is
Gotcha.
probably how all these religions started. Um, Tantra is really old, and the symbols that they found in Mohenjo-daro and the Harappan ruins are very, very simple, and there's very few images of like human like deities.
Mm.
They're simple, right? Like, well, you can see like this is a really good example. Like like
Right.
like this is a theriomorph. It looks like a human, but he's got a bull horns, right?
Right.
He's surrounded by animals, and he's, as you know, in current India, they call this form Pashupati, which means Lord of the Beasts. And so that was the original form of Shiva from thousands and thousands of years ago. And before that, it probably wasn't actually human oriented. So in Greek, in Egyptian, in India, in lots, the tradition has been that people have started worshiping trees and animals and such whatnot, and then they slowly got evolved into being people. For example, in Greece, Apollo. If I say the word Apollo,
Right.
everybody has an image of the god Apollo, but the Apollo was also worshipped in the form of a wolf, and
Mm.
on the Acropolis there was, I don't know where it is now, it's in a museum. There was a statue of a wolf called Lycus Apollo, which means, or Lycaean Apollo, that was Apollo as a wolf. So Hanuman, Ganesh are sort of caught from the most ancient forms, as opposed to like a monkey or an elephant, to you look at Shiva, and Shiva is now looking like a human being sitting there, but he has a bull next to him, which indicates that's what he used to be, right? And
Gotcha.
so, and the Nagas are still seen as snakes, but you can look online and see the serpent goddess is very human looking, but is surrounded, has some serpents on her. So now I'm writing this book about animism, and one of the things I did was sit down is one section, and I said, look, it's pretty obvious that it started with animistic spirits, and especially honoring animals, because when we were primordial people, when we were Cro-Magnon or other hominids, that we needed to eat, so we had to hunt the animals and whatnot. And if you look at the cave paintings, there's a lot of theriomorphs. There's a lot of hunters who are half animal, right?
Mm.
The earliest werewolf image I found and I mentioned this in my Werewolf Magic book, is a wolf man who's hunting deer.
Mm.
So this idea of animals and humans kind of meshing, and in the ancient time, we honored things directly, like this tree has a spirit, and this has a spirit, and and the caribou has a spirit, and the bear has a spirit, and if I want to hunt caribou, I have to maybe I have to like become the bear that hunts, so we don't know. This is so ancient, but
Right.
this is the root of Tantra. This is the root of the oldest thing. So every deity in Hinduism and in Tantra, every deity has a varana, has an animal form that was probably the earliest animal form. Nandi, the bull, was probably venerated before human Shiva was venerated.
Right.
So animism is, so as as I continue being insane and writing insane books, I this is where I've now moved, and I've gotten to the core of the back of it all, which is animism, and
Gotcha.
I'm talking about it and writing about it.
And,
So
and and so would you say if there was if you wanted to take on the qualities of that animal, then you work with that deity,
Yeah.
and
Well,
then
in a sense, yeah, in a sense, yeah. I mean, Shiva's about meditating, about being calm and centered, and most of the time Shiva just is stoned out of his mind. He's well, there's a tons of images, like people don't talk about it, but there's tons of images of Shiva smoking kusa, smoking pot on top of Mount Kailash,
huh?
and he's the god of marijuana. I mean, here you can say this to all your people who are watching this. Like, people are like, what would the god of marijuana be? It's Shiva. Shiva's been the god of marijuana for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and why? So when people are like, oh, I wish there was a deity for. Oh no, there's a deity for pot. You just type in Shiva smoking marijuana, and look at the images. You'll see all the images. He's got a chillum, and you walk around India, and they're all, the sadhus and the tantrics are all like getting high and hanging out.
Well,
Not all, but yeah, a lot.
yeah.
And in India, they're like, "Oh no, it's very illegal." And then you walk down the street, and there's this guy sitting in the corner, like getting loaded. But he's a guru. They're not going to arrest him.
I've seen Shiva associated with cannabis on some like YouTube channel or something, but I didn't make the connection.
Oh
So
yeah, oh yeah. No, it's a thing. So, but really, Shiva's whole thing is, like, you can see Shiva behind me. I've got a really nice one. But he's chill. Hanuman is a warrior, right?
right.
Shiva's chill. Shiva's sitting there with his eyes half closed, and he's focusing on his Atman, on his core being, and he meditates 24/7. Like, that's his thing, is like, calming, centering, meditating, and all those sorts of things. So it makes sense that that originally he was connected with the cow. Like that image I just showed you, where he's got, where cows are chill, right? I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah.
they,
Yeah.
they eat grass, and they just hang out, and they sleep a lot, and yeah, there you go. That's a classic image right there. There's Shiva smoking the
Just
ganja with
getting lit.
yeah. I can tell you a mantra for doing it if you want. I got a couple that are good. Bong Shankar is very common. So I'll say Bong Shankar, Bong Shiva, Bong Rudra, Bong Bhairav, Bong An. So I have different. There's different chants. There's different, like, mantras for smoking.
Oh wow.
But my favorite one is Esha Vijaya Shivaya Nama. Esha Vijaya Shivaya Nama, and it means victory to Shiva. So if you get high, Shiva wins. That isn't that cool? I just, like, when I heard that, when I got that mantra from the people in the UK who I actually, the initiation came down through, I was like, oh yeah, man, I'm using that mantra. That's like, yeah, it's like, go Shiva, go Shiva.
Did Shiva win today?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I win. Look, I'm stoned and relaxed and chill and meditative and not upset about anything. I'm good. I'm good. So anyway, so yeah, my new book is I'm in the middle of working on it.
Okay. Right.
But I don't talk about marijuana in my new book.
Is there so it sounds like you're kind of going into the history, almost like the history of religion through this book, and
I'm regressing. Let's just call it that. I'm like, well, all right. So how I ended up doing the book on animism was, werewolf magic is still a big deal, and I've got more people, and I mean, I'll just push my books. Like, so this is
yeah,
the first book, right?
yeah.
And then this is the second book, right? Well, I swear, I have sold more of these books and werewolf magic stuff than of all the books I've ever written. And I have many people like not thousands, but I have a lot of people who write me, and I tell them, go to my website if you want to write me. I'm not going to tell you my email now, but if you go to my website, werewolfmagic.com, you will see it says contact me, and you click it and there's my email. So I've got people from all over the world who are writing me about werewolf magic. Werewolf magical stuff is in, and I'm in contact with, I don't know, a lot of people who are identify as werewolves and who connect with what I did. I'm coming at it from a slightly different angle than other people, but
Well, that really doesn't surprise me, because to me, there's this essence of domestication and letting the wild man out, or the werewolf, the wild, the
yeah,
non-domestic. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I could see how that could appeal to a lot of people, especially in today's
yeah,
world.
exactly. And how this led to animism was, I mean, you and I have had this conversation, so I'll just make it very brief. When I went through a really horrible time, a horrible divorce, and then soon after that, my university job disappeared because of COVID, and you know, I went through a really rough time, and I was really down, and like, you know, like borderline suicidal at one point, but I would continue to do my pujas every night, and my meditation every night, and when evening, when I was doing my meditation, this wolf showed up in my
Mm.
dream. I have my eyes closed, and I create a very tight circle, and I follow this whole thing, and I banish by pud, and I do this whole thing. And all of a sudden, like in the middle of this, there's this wolf sitting there. Like, I close my eyes, as clear as can be, as clear as I see you right now. This wolf spirit was sitting there, and I thought I was losing my mind completely at this point. And I'm like, I ignored it.
Wow.
And I banished thoroughly the whole house. I got rid of everything. And then the next night I'm meditating, and the wolf shows up again. This happened like 3 or 4 times, and I just kept ignoring it, thinking I was okay. I'm finally losing it. This is what I figured. I was sure, like, I'm done. Like, there's a friggin' wolf in my tantric, thing.
Wow.
And finally, I stopped and I looked at it. I mean, I'm closing my eyes, and it's as clear as can be. And I said, "What are you doing here? Who are you?" And I got a very, very clear, very, very, very easy to understand message directly from this wolf, saying, "You've been calling me. You don't even realize it. You've been calling me. I can help you, because you are in deep trouble, and you are about to crash." And I was like, well, I said, well, I said, okay, all right. And then, I finished my meditation, and I sat there for a while, and I thought about it for a while, and I said, yeah, I'm about to lose. I'm really about to explode. I'm about to lose it. So, okay, what do I have to lose? It's this, either it's a hallucination, or it's a spirit that's actually trying to help me. So I opened up to it, and it showed up immediately, and I said, well, what do you want me to do? And it told me, it said, I want you go. I was living in an apartment at that point, next to 70 acres of woods. It said, get out in the woods, rip off your clothes, and let your animal out. That was like, it was very, very simple. And I was like, okay. And I did that, and it kind of came with me. It kind of like helped, and I felt 100% better afterwards. It was like, and I was like howling, like the wolf spirit actually kind of like went through me, and I was growling and starting all this stuff, which was not what I was doing in general in my life.
Right.
But then and then I came back feeling better, and then it continued to mentor me. And I started writing down, I had a notebook, and I'm writing it all down. I'm like, okay, I'm losing my mind, but I'm going to go with it, because I got nothing else. It's just, I'm living by myself, and I don't know, I'm this, this wolf is guiding me out of this mess, and that's how. And then as I'm writing it all down, I'm doing this stuff, and I had friends who were chatting with me, and they're like, "Oh, what are you up to?" I go, "Well."
Funny you should ask.
I'm turning into a werewolf. That's what I'm doing for fun. And I'm not going to a therapist. I'm dealing with a werewolf. I'm dealing with a wolf who's sitting me. I mean, I had this image of me sitting on a like on a sofa with a wolf, psychiatrist going, "Well, how long have you not been a wolf?"
Right. Is the wolf in the room with you now?
We need to work together. We want to get you. We want your animal self to come out. You need to shut down your upper cortex. I'm like, okay, all right, thank you. So my friends were like, whoa, like Denny's really losing it. So I'm doing this stuff, and I'm not really spreading it around. And I'm more and more. I'm going into the woods and doing this. And then the wolf spirit told me to go up into the mountains because I'm in Seattle. I'm an hour away from like the most hardcore wilderness that exists. And I went up there and I did the whole thing, and I thought, well, if a bear eats me, a puma eats me, then we're done. But no, and then I went through all this. I had some very great experiences once I was able to like unleash my animal and shut down my upper cortex and my lower cortex. All of a sudden, I could see at night. I was sneaking up on animals, and I had all this experience. So meanwhile, my friends are really concerned about me, and I'm writing all this stuff down. But I'm losing weight. I'm feeling better. I'm gaining muscle mass, and so that they're like, okay, Daddy, as long as that's working for you, and so I'm telling people this, but they were like, mm. So I went to PantheaCon with some people I knew, and I had 4 books that I wanted to sell to Llewellyn or to Weiser or to another publisher. I had 3 of them actually. And my friends all said, they were looking at my notes on the werewolf stuff, and they said, you really should sell this. And I'm like, this is nuts. Everybody's going to think I'm crazy. I'm not going to sell this book on werewolf magic, So I started calling it werewolf magic, and when I went to PantheaCon, and I went and I said, okay, here's some books I want to sell, and I sat with the acquisitions editors, and they'd say, okay, show me. And I'd go, how about this one? No. How about this one? No. How about this one? Nah, that's not what we want. How about this one? No, that's all been done. And I said, well, I have this because my friends had made me put together. And I said, well, I have this one, but it's ridiculous. They're like, werewolf magic, we want it. And so both Llewellyn and Weiser's both were like, we want that one. And I was like, are you kidding? Seriously? This is what you see. This is like, so that's how it ended up being published. Then I was like, I got home and I was like, oh shit, now I actually have to like write it. Like, and so then I did I started doing research and realizing, oh my goodness, this werewolf cult, these wolf cults and werewolf cults have existed from the dawn of time.
Oh wow.
So I'm linking this back to why I was talking about animism.
Right.
Because my focus was on me and on this wolf spirit that is still with me, that I still work with, that smacks me upside my head once in a while. That's extremely helpful, and spirit that I'm working with. And at first I thought it was crazy, and then I realized, well, Denny, you work with deities of all kinds all the time. This is a really primordial deity. Well, then I started having people write me, like a lot of people write me. First I had a lot of people writing me about the werewolf magic and about being werewolves and all that. But then I get people who are writing me and going, well, it's really your book is really wonderful, and the fact that the spirit came to you, but that's not the spirit that comes to me. The spirit that comes to me is a crow. The spirit that comes to me is a snake. The spirit that comes to me and talks to me is a bull, or a puma, and all of a sudden, all these people are telling me that I have an animal spirit too that comes to me, and it's not a wolf, and I'm like, huh. Plus, once I wrote the book, I found, like, for example, in Morocco, the shapeshifters are a lot of the shapeshifters in Morocco are hyena shapeshifters,
Ooh.
and then there's elk shapeshifters in like the Sami, that there's all kinds of shapeshifters. The shamans, I met a bunch of shamans from Siberia, the Nani Doro people, and their primordial shapeshifting, their spirit is a bear, and so all of a sudden I realized, like, oh wow, I'm in this narrow little thing with the wolf, because that was, for me, that was what helped me. And plus, who doesn't like werewolves, right? And so once these people, for the last few years, people have been writing me about all these different, well, what about crows? I have a crow spirit that I work with all the time. I have a good friend who works with a crow spirit all the time. And I'm like, huh, it never occurred to me that there's all these people that are working with other animistic spirits, So I started to, like, research, like, I opened up to reading about animism. I'm like, oh, like, everything I'm doing in werewolf magic comes right out of animism. It's a spirit that is guiding me and working. It's a primordial, ancient spiritual form that, anyway. That's when I presented at different festivals with werewolf magic. I wanted to see if I could get people to shapeshift. At Starwood, I had almost 200 people at this magic circle, this huge stone circle, and I got them all to shapeshift. I mean, they went under like that. It was insane.
Wow.
And they didn't want to stop. They were running around on all fours, which I cannot do. I cannot run around on all fours, howling and like totally, the wolf spirit totally possessed them. So that's why I started doing research and reading about it and thinking about it and realizing, wow, all of the spirits, like, if I look at all the tantric gods, I'll loop it back around for you.
Okay.
So if I'm looking at Shiva, his Varana is the bull, right? And if I'm looking at, like, the Naga, the snake goddess Marasa, it's a snake. And every single deity form in Tantra has a Varana, has an animal form, and that was the original deity form.
Right.
Ganesha was an elephant. People would venerate and work with elephant spirits. So I was like, okay, I've been just sort of in this one thing. It was for me, and now I'm opening it up, and I'm talking about neo-animism and about how people will go into the woods and start working with, go all the way back in time and start working with nature spirits and animal spirits.
Fascinating.
So what goes around comes around, I guess.
So out of curiosity, to the extent the wolf showed up for you, do you feel like you have, and you work with a lot of deities, but do you feel like you have a special connection with the wolf?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. It saved me.
Okay. Right.
I
Right.
mean, I mean, I probably have some sort of, genetically, let me get it right. We're 85.4% genetically the same as wolves, but we are 98.4, I think, percent, or 5% the same as chimpanzees.
Right.
So genetically, we contain genetically all animals. I mean, they came from the first cell. And so, this is science. I'm not making.
We're cousins and we grew up together.
Yeah, well, they're there. It's those genes are in our body. And so
Yeah.
when I got into the werewolf magic stuff, what I realized was, like, I'm 85.4% wolf. It's not a big leap for me to let that genetic component come out.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
my primordial thing that I'm also having the new book is about unleashing your animal self, because we're overly civilized, and therefore we've been programmed to believe that animals don't have souls, that trees don't have feelings, that there's heaven and there's hell, and that we have souls, but nobody else has souls. Animals don't have
Right.
souls. So we've been programmed to believe that reality is purely physical, that capitalism and science are the rulers, and all that other stuff is just frou-frou new age crap. But I know from my own experience that we have control over our genetics. We have a certain amount of control. We can connect with parts of us that we're animals,
Sure.
we're
Yeah.
animals. But yeah,
Domesticated.
but when I get a group of people together and I'm doing like that stuff with them, I say, okay, I want you all to say I'm an animal, and people have a real hard time saying it. We've been programmed. We've been really programmed to believe that we are not animals. We are above animals. We're superior to animals. Animals don't exist. They don't have souls. But getting everybody to stand and say, "I am an animal," like own it, is really hard to do. It's interesting to watch people's, you know, you know, like all their programming says, "No, you're not an animal. You're a human being." And when people argue with me, I pull out my stuff. I have a bunch of stuff, research stuff from the book I'm doing now. We are technically, in biology, we Homo sapiens are listed under the phylum of gorillas. We don't have a separate. We don't have a
We don't
separate.
have our own thing.
We
Gotcha.
don't have our own thing. We are under gorillas, and we are closest to chimpanzees, which are honestly kind of horrific in some ways. But
Well, if the shoe fits.
I mean, like a lot of monkeys, like gorillas they don't kill each other. They're pretty chill. But chimpanzees are, I mean, if you
Pretty
look at a
violent.
chimp, yeah, they are. And it's like in that it explains why people are the way they are. I don't know where I got going on this, but
Well, that's all. We were talking about animism and feral magic, but
yeah, that's where I'm at.
I wanted to steer things a little towards the wolf pack, uh,
Okay.
because well, one of the things I got from you that was interesting just now is like when you're doing tantric practices, you're tuning in to a practice with a billion other people,
Right.
and it's got thousands of years of history, and there's a certain power to that.
Right.
And what I've experienced is there's also a power to working in a group. And
Yes.
I haven't had a chance to dip into pack magic, but that's what struck me when I read that title. Was
Yeah, that's right. I mean, some animals are pack animals, some animals aren't. Cats are
Mhm.
not pack.
Oh, yeah.
They're not. Even whether it's a lion or a cougar or whatnot. Cats tend to be very solitary, or like lions have a very clear way of doing it. But humans are pack animals.
Hmm.
We want you know I live alone, which I'm actually pretty happy about most of the time. But I need interaction with other humans.
Right.
This and that's kind of how we are. We're pack oriented, and monkeys are pack oriented. I mean, so some animals are, some animals are not. Some animals are solo. Tigers are totally solo. They don't. They meet and they mate, and they're gone.
Hmm.
But the wolves and wolf packs are closer to human beings. Actually, they're nicer than human beings. Wolves. Everybody thinks humans have gone through this aeons old thing that wolves are scary and horrible and do terrible things. But actually, wolves in the wild almost never kill other wolves. The only
Hmm.
time they do is when a rogue wolf like attacks the cubs or something. That they're not, their modus is survival. And most animals that are pack oriented, they don't want to have fights. They
Gotcha.
they want everything to be okay. And the whole alpha thing is ridiculous too at this point, because you look at how we now know that the term, the modern term of the alpha, or the wolf, that kind of is so that we used to, because we're humans, right? We're like, oh, he's the macho, he's the tough, he killed his. No, they don't do that. They now use the term, biologists and zoologists use the term parent.
Oh.
The top wolf in a wolf pack is called the parent,
Huh.
because it's the wolf that everybody kind of looks to, whether it's a big tough male wolf, sometimes it's female, but it's the wolf who everybody looks to as like the one who's going to take care of everybody. And I recently saw a wonderful video of an entire wolf pack, a large one, that was moving from one area to another. And it was a helicopter was filming it, and you could see all the wolves. There were some wolves that were in the front that were kind of making sure everything was okay. But the quote unquote alpha wolf was all the way at the very, very end, making sure that the old wolves
Mm.
and the babies and the pregnant wolves were not going to get left behind.
Wow.
And so when people you go online, it's like, I'm the alpha wolf. That's really not how it is in the real
Right.
world of pack animals. So anyway, I
So,
don't go on.
oh, I just was gonna ask about then the essence of the wolf pack magic.
Well, all right. I'll give you the very simple.
Yeah.
What got me into that? I was pretty much solo for a long time with my werewolf magic. I thought I'm insane. This is working for me, and I didn't plan to write a book, and then they wanted me to write a book, and then I wrote a book, and then there were all these people writing me, and it was really not a plan I had. All my books are all the books that you've seen, and all the books I have are books that I wrote because I got fascinated and fixated by something, whether it's Naga spirits or Tantra or werewolves or whatever, or the God Pan. It's like I get obsessed. I mean, there's not a lot of money in writing books, but I get obsessed and then I write a book. So I don't know why, but I do. And so I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Where did we? What was the question you asked
The
me?
essence of the wolf pack
Oh, the
magic.
pack, right. So when I was doing this, like werewolf magic is really is kind of a solo thing.
Right.
And, pack magic happened when I had a bunch of people who, like 4 or 5 people that wanted to do it with me. I have a, I'm renting a house that's really lovely. You can see I have all these woods behind me, and I actually have a little mini forest out here with these
Nice.
200 and 300-year-old trees. And even though there's houses all around me, I used to go out there and do my werewolf magic stuff and howl on the full moon and wait for the
Mm.
police to come. And
Right.
I've been here for 6 years. The police haven't come. You know, only one time I had somebody knock on the gate and say, "Oh, my wife just got home from the hospital. Could you guys be a little bit quieter?" And I'm like, "All right, we'll be all right. Oh yeah, we all right. All right, fine. All right." So I had several people who were curious about it. So we started doing it together, and it was really powerful.
Right.
I found out I mean, I kind of knew they were pack animals, but I was by myself, and I was just doing it by myself because I was kind of nuts. And with a group of people, it changes dramatically. Uh,
Mm.
Having like 4 or 5 people with you when you do, like, for example, when you do the shape shifting, it's easier and faster to go into that mode where you shut down your brain
Right.
and your animal comes out. And when you sway and rock in sync, it's much more potent. And I think it's really it's a norm of pack animals, including humans, that this is when people are all together, there's a kind of group mentality, sometimes good, sometimes not good, right? But everybody sort of links, like clicks, and you do that with a group of people, and if you're working your way into sort of a trance state of pulling your animal out and shutting down your upper cortex, it goes really fast, I found out. And the most exciting was when I did Starwood, and I had almost 200 people there, about that. That's what I counted. And they went under, like I had to go very slow with all the steps. But once we got rolling, they all shapeshifted and went under like that, including, there were a lot of people who were like thinking it was like a la-di-da fun. Oh yeah, this is kind of, it's like, like a pagan la-la, but when people went under, they all went under. So I guess the bottom line is that when we are pack animals, wolves are pack animals. When one person emotes in a certain way, it spreads.
Right. Yeah.
It's like when you're in a rock concert, and so everybody starts to get excited. It explodes, like everybody gets really, really, really excited, because this is just the norm of a group of people that they all sync together, and then it becomes much bigger. So that was the most exciting, was watching 200 people go under.
I bet.
Start running around on all fours and howling and rolling around on the grass, and then it was very hard to get them to stop.
That I could see.
It was really hard. I had to play alpha and like start howling and growling at them, like, okay, and just make them stop, because they were like, no, fuck you, we're not going to do it. I'm like, Rah! And then they all like this, and I'm like, Rah! And then like, okay, because I don't want them running amok in the festival with a thousand people there. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't want to be like on the front page of the paper the next day. Werewolf causes mayhem.
Right. That's a ritual you want closure on. You don't want to leave that one open.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, but it was really like the best fun, I've got to say. So that when you have a certain groups of certain animals, when the fire is lit, it, yeah. I mean, you would just watch any of the.
No, I totally get it.
I mean, you watch any group of political people all getting together. All of a sudden, it's like it starts as yeah, we want, and then it turns into riots. So
I did probably an 8-week workshop on yoga and the chakras, and we did yoga, and every week we focused on a different chakra, and the depth, like you said, you go faster, you go deeper, and we were having results that just boggled my mind. Like, where the hell did that happen? But
we are really powerful, magical animal beings. I mean, when people who came to have me do the werewolf magic stuff with them were very, very like, oh yeah, well, whatever, let's do it, let's try it. And then afterwards they were like,
right,
oh my God, that worked. We have amazing potential. Like, we have endless potential. I'll tell you a quick one, because it really hit me hard. I have arthritis in my neck. I have arthritis in my back. I'm getting old. I look good, but I'm getting old. So, and I have a frozen shoulder. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah.
You do? All right. You're in the age where you know what that is. Almost nobody does. Yeah. No, most people are like, what? I'm like, you just wait for it, man. and I was in incredible pain, and the full moon came. And I had two people who used to be in my pack who wanted to come and do the shape shifting with me. And I said, I'm really in a lot of pain. I don't know how this is going to work with me, but another time, let's do it. So on the full moon, I went out there, and I was really, really in a lot of pain. And I just said, okay, I'm gonna I don't know what I want to say on your thing.
No, we're pretty open.
All right. Well, mushrooms are very common here. I'm
Oh
just gonna
yeah.
say that. And so I decided I was in a lot of pain, and I wanted to, really focus on this werewolf mix-up. So I had a little tea and went out there and started doing the whole praxis right and everything that's in my book. And got to that point where I was actually, my animal self was starting to come up, but I was like an injured animal, and I was
Mm.
just I sort of was like, I'm not sure what to do. I wasn't talking. I was just like letting the wolf spirit come in, and I one of the things that starts with, like, I had my claws down in the earth, and I was honoring the earth mother, and I got a very clear message, which was, you don't ask for stuff, and you need to,
Mm.
like ask. And so I said, Mother Earth, I need help, I need energy. And this huge energy flooded into me, this huge positive, like tingling energy flooded into me. And then I stood up, and then I honored the trees, the Lord of the forest, and I'm doing my, the chant for that is like the earth is ma, and the tree, the green nature around us is ah, and I'm doing this, and again I get this thing like, ask, so I asked the trees, I asked all the trees around me. I said, I need help, I didn't say this, I just was feeling it, like I
Yeah.
was, instead of giving, I was receiving. And all the trees, like, what I felt and saw, all the trees bend forward. And I got a very clear message to take some of the branches that were hanging down and wrap them around my shoulder and my neck. And
Mm.
I did that. And I swayed for a while, and I let all this energy from the trees come into my body. I know it sounds really crazy, but
Oh, I'm with you.
really, it was really very, very visceral, and I felt it. And then I'm honoring the moon, and we use ah, for that. And again, and again, it was just like the moon's like, you always honor, but why don't you ask, And so I said, yeah, okay, I need whatever I can get. So this like energy coming down from the full moon,
Mm.
and I go through, and I finish the whole thing, and then I relax, and then I do the whole thing, and then I come out of it, and then I went to bed, and I woke up in no pain. So
Nice.
like a month of serious pain, and then no pain. So I was talking to some friends of mine who are naturopaths, and they got it right away. They were like, yeah, you found a way to connect.
And
So,
receive. Yeah, yeah.
and receive. No, it's like a couple of things I learned. One, it's okay to ask, and nature, like when I do the werewolf's magic stuff, when I go into a purely primordial state of being, and the wolf spirit, guides me and helps me, come out in my in my lycanthropic form, that I'm one with nature, and that nature's there for me,
Mm.
as a normal everyday go to work kind of guy. I'm disconnected from nature because our culture is disconnected from nature. So it was good. Anyway, it made me realize, like, oh wow, I'm part of it, and I can, whatever form I take, I can pull it in. And it's funny you mentioned chakras, because I actually have a whole thing in here about chakras.
You have a book? Oh, on the Tantra book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The chakras. in this country, and now it's moved back into India, there are 7 chakras, right?
Right, right.
Do you know that that's not a norm?
I well, there a guy kind of in our circle, Phil Hine, just did a pretty in-depth book on the chakras, and he was talking about the history. And there could be, I mean, I've seen various versions, but the 7 is like the most common one.
Right, right. And originally, what it was it depended on what deity you were working with.
Hmm.
Some deities, like for example, this is Tripura Sundari, right?
Okay.
Tripura Sundari is a very ancient goddess. She's not big in Hinduism at all. She's a very erotic, kind of like Babylon. She's a very erotic goddess and she represents sort of the personification of Kundalini, and she's a very, very old tantric goddess. You find her stuff in the tantras, the early tantras, and she uses 9 chakras. But what I talk about a lot in the Nat Sampradaya, the way I work with it is three chakras.
Hmm.
And it actually is a different ball game, but it doesn't matter what you do, I mean, as long as you're consistent. Don't I have a picture in here of it? I should. Why don't I? But the 3 chakra, I like the 3 chakra system because it's one of the major images that I use for that is from the lineage that I'm in is the sun. I don't think I have one floating around here, but it's a sun. It's a sun with a moon in it. You've probably
Right.
seen it before.
I've
Yeah.
seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sun, moon, and fire. And so
Okay.
the 3 chakras I use is there are 3 of them on the body. They're the 3 primordial chakras.
Like
So
gut, heart, head. Is that what we're?
in a sense, yeah, it's this part of your body.
Yeah.
And so this is moon, and this is
Okay.
Shiva, and then the heart is the sun, and this is Shakti, and then the lower center, the sexual center, and that whole bottom part of you is the fire.
Gotcha.
And so yeah. Anyway, just since you brought up chakras, I was going to mention that it's one of the oldest things I've seen, and my goal with this book was to go to the just to focus mostly on tantra as the primordial tantra, and not because of course everything's been interwoven
Right.
in India, like the yantras are purely tantric. They were not part of Hinduism at first, but Hinduism has taken a lot of the tantric stuff
Gotcha.
and does that. So
Institutionalized it like religions do.
pretty much, yeah. That's I really never thought of it quite that way, but yeah, you're not wrong. I'm sure
Yeah.
Catholicism steals a lot of pagan stuff, so yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's what my mind is like. There was these esoteric spiritual practices that were original, and then it got kind of co-opted and institutionalized into religions, and
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Tantra's like a lifestyle, It's not a religion. It's the Svechacharya is such a great term, and you never hear about it. I never heard about it in Hinduism.
Say that again.
Svechacharya.
Yeah.
Svechacharya means do your will.
Ah.
And tantrics will say to each other, svecha, meaning just do what you will to do. It's very
Yeah.
similar to Crowley's, like do it the
Yeah.
law of the law, and it's not so different. The way Dadaji says it was it's very interesting, the connections. The way he says it is the will to love is the law to live,
Right.
which I actually kind of like better than Crowley's thou and this and that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The will to love is the law to live. Like that's the bottom line. Is like we through our will we expand and live love, and that is the law that we should follow. like Dadaji says in his stuff that, it's an earth-based pagan philosophy and religion. It's in the beginning, Tantra comes out of working directly with nature. And so we're back to animism again. We're back to spirits, and we're back to honoring everything. And so,
Very nice. The will to love is the law to live. Is that
right? That's it. The will to love is the law to live.
sounds like a
If you
perfect
want,
place?
I'll send you a PDF of a bunch of Dadaji stuff. You can see it.
That'd be great. I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Is it okay if I share that with the audience? I can.
I
No.
probably not. Not. I don't mind, but there's a complicated thing
Okay.
going. Yeah,
I'll
there's
keep it private. Thank you.
yeah. I mean, do what you want to do. Just don't use my name. there's some people who are doing the same tantric stuff. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
people are
Well, no,
people. Don't leave it there.
I'm
Yeah.
with you.
So
Well, let's see. The will to love is the law to live. I think that's
right,
the
I
perfect
love
place to
that.
wrap this up.
Yeah, the will to love is the law to live. That's right. Well,
Great.
thank you for talking to me about my book. I mean,
Yeah.
no, I've gotten very little what's the word, feedback or interest. It's just, it's in this, when I give this to people, I show it to people, and they're like, oh, Hinduism. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And to them it's just too weird. But now I have friends of mine who are my friends who are naturopaths are slowly working their way through it, and they're going, oh, this is really understandable, this is really simple, this is really straightforward. And then I thank the wonderful people at Falcon Press for making me rewrite the entire book, like, over and over and over and over again. Because the guy who runs it,
Nick. Yeah.
Nick would say, well, this is too obtuse, and he was very clear up front, like, I don't know what this is, so you're going to have to make it really clear, and that way you'll make it clear for everybody. So, and
Yeah.
I'd say, well, I'm from that Nadinat Sampradaya. Well, what's a Sampradaya? Okay, all right. Well, there's, well, what's that? I'm like, all right, okay. So I'm really proud of this book, and I hope people read it and find it of interest.
I found it to be really practical and straightforward, and it really just the overall, I guess you'd call it, philosophy of it resonates with me a great deal.
Oh, thank
So,
you. That's wonderful.
yeah,
Then rewriting the entire thing over and over again 11 times was probably really worth it.
it
I mean,
was, yeah,
that's what I believe now. I think Nick is a god. you know he got me to do something that write something that even people who have no interest in this at all are reading and going, oh, this is really clear and understandable. And I'm always thinking, well, that's not my usual mode.
that's your editor, your publisher.
Oh, yeah, no, my Animism book is, I think, went a little bit more esoteric and weird, but anyway, we'll find out.
Well, right on. And Denny, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you. We'll get your website and
Thank
books
you.
in the show notes
Shanti.
there.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. It was really fun. I was looking forward to it. Almost nobody has wanted to talk to me about this book, so I'm really happy to be able to do it.
Yeah,
Plus, we covered werewolfism and God knows what else.
yeah. I feel
All
like
the
we could do.
gods, all the animist gods. I really appreciate it. It was really been fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Thank
Me.
you. All right, all right, all right. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Denny Sargent for taking the time to chat. And thank you, as always, to Christina Pearson at the Robert Anton Wilson Trust and Richard Rassa of Hilaritas Press. My next episode will release, as usual, on the 23rd. Until then, I am your host, Mike Gathers, signing off with love and cheerfulness. Amor et Hilaritas. Hilaritas.